What's good, YouTubers and YouTubettes? This is JB Sports back again with another one. Adrien, the Problem Broner, aka the Can Man. Anybody can get it. Africans, Mexicans, Dominicans, African Americans, anybody can get it. But apparently Conor Benn wants it. He wants to smoke, Adrien. AB all day. According to Conor Benn's promoter, Eddie Hearn, who I affectionately calls Eddie the Con Artist, came out today at the Anthony Joshua Alexander Usyk press conference and said he sent 2 contracts to Adrien Broner and he's rejected both contracts. The first contract he sent, the money wasn't right, so he sent the second contract and the money still ain't right. So Eddie Hearn says that he's gonna have to find some more money for AB, and he's still trying to secure that fight for one of his young rising stars under Matchroom Boxing, and a guy that I look at as one of the 3 amigos, one of the 3 young guns in the welterweight division, along with Virgil Ortiz Jr. and Jerome Boots Ennis. Now Conor Benn, man, he's a guy to me, man. He seems like his more natural weight is junior welterweight, but as Floyd Mayweather once said, skills pay the bills. Floyd Mayweather wasn't no true 147-pounder either, but it did not stop him from dominating that weight class. And Conor Benn is hoping to go down that same road and let his skill set do the talking and overcome the lack of size, the lack of height. So we will see what happens and we will see what transpires. I don't know why Eddie Hearn is acting all brand new on me. I really don't understand that, because Adrien Broner told him about 2 years ago, when Eddie Hearn was trying to make the fight happen between another one of his young guns, one of his young rising stars, Devin the Dream Haney. And Adrien Broner told him that, yeah, I'll fight Haney, I'll fight Young Buck, but give me $10 million. And as we see here today, they didn't fight. They ain't gonna fight. And Devin Haney went into another direction, and Adrien Broner went off into another direction. Now, Adrien Broner's been real inactive. Now, he just got through fighting a guy named Santiago in a fight a lot of people thought he lost. That was a very close fight. I think he won that fight on a split decision, or maybe it was a unanimous decision. He seems like he's always involved in these real close fights where, you can really say he might have lost those fights. You look at the Adrien Granados fight. A lot of people thought he lost that fight. He got the decision win. The Jesse Vargas fight, which was a draw. A lot of people thought he lost that fight. And we go back when he was really a rising star. And people was comparing him to Floyd Mayweather Jr., saying he was going to be the next Mayweather when he fought Ponce de Leon. A lot of people thought he lost that fight. That was a very close fight. I can't remember who I thought won that fight. I got to go back and watch that fight, man. But I know that fight was very close. Very, very close. I think AB might have edged that fight out, because I think he landed the more sharper, the more cleaner punches. But I know for one thing, Ponce de Leon threw way more punches, and he was way more busier in that fight. But I think the more damaging punches was landed by AB, so I have no problem with him getting the decision. I got to go back and watch that fight, because I don't remember how I had that fight scored. But it's just with Adrien Broner, man, his problem is he don't let his hands go. And he get into a lot of close fights with guys that are not as talented as he is, but guys that basically outwork him in a fight, throw a whole lot more punches. He's more selective with his punches, so they outwork him. They throw more punches, and they beat him on really on pure volume. If I'm throwing 500 punches, you throwing 300 punches, it don't matter if you landing 40% of your punches, I'm landing 30% of my punches. I'm still gonna outland you at the end of the day. And I'm going to still say, well, let's look at the punch stat. I landed more punches. I won the fight. I'm going to stake my claim to that. So that's why Adrien Broner is always involved in these close fights with guys he shouldn't be involved in a close fight with, man, because he just don't let his hands go. With all that being said, don't look for this fight to happen. You know, I told you guys right after Conor being called out Adrien Broner, right after the victory over Adrien Granados, he actually was calling out Adrien Broner before that fight. He'd been calling Adrien Broner out. Before his fight with, who he fought? Samuel Vargas. Before that fight, he was calling out Adrien Broner. He was calling out Sean Porter. He don't want no Sean Porter problems. He ain't ready for Sean Porter. Nah, he ain't ready for that fight. No. He ain't ready for that. He don't want no Sean Porter smoke. I think people got a misconception about Sean Porter. You know, they listen to what Errol Spence Jr. said when he called Sean Porter an in-shape street fighter. Nah, that's not the case. You know, I don't know if he was just trash talking, trying to get in Sean Porter's head, or he really truly believed that he was at that time an in-shape street fighter. But you look at the post-fight press conference, he gave Sean Porter his props. He said Sean Porter is a good fighter. So Sean Porter's a guy that's gonna make you very uncomfortable in the ring. He's a guy that's gonna put a lot of pressure on you. He's a very athletic guy. He's a guy that's gonna roughhouse. He's gonna use his head, elbows. He's gonna try to win the fight by any means necessary. If you can't stand the heat, you got to get the hell up out that kitchen fucking around with Sean Porter. But with that being said, don't look for Conor being to fight Adrien Broner. That's why, you know, Eddie Hearn ain't helped himself in a lot of these situations, man. He talks bad about the PBC every chance he gets. Every time he gets in front of a microphone, he's talking about the PBC or one of their fighters. And he wonders why it's hard to get these fights done with PBC fighters. You know, he's always seems to be, no matter what. You know, you see what the things that Bob Arum said about Eddie Hearn, but he seems to be willing to work with Bob Arum. Even Frank Warren and him are mortal enemies, but they've worked together on fights, and they were working together on the Joshua Fury fight before the arbitrator ruled in Wilder's favor and put the kibosh on that fight. But Al Heyman, which ain't said nothing bad about Eddie Hearn, he can't stand them. Eddie Hearn can't stand the PBC and Al Heyman. I think you got to go back to when he first came to America with that big DAZN deal, that $1 billion deal with DAZN, and he thought he was going to be able to come in here and basically fleece a lot of Al Heyman fighters, and that did not happen. And I think he still holds a grudge as those fighters stay loyal to Al Heyman. He thought he was going to be able to throw a lot of money at them fighters and say, look, I'm going to have you way more active than Al Heyman have you. Instead of fighting 2 times a year, you'll be fighting 3-4 times a year with DAZN. But what he didn't understand is those guys are very loyal to Al Heyman. You know, they don't mind fighting 2 times a year. If I'm going to fight 2 times a year and I'm making $3 million a fight, that's $6 million for 1 year. I don't need to fight 3 times. Well, I need to fight 3 times and put my body in harm's way, take unnecessary punishment. You talking about fighting 3 or 4 times a year. People that fight 3 or 4 times a year not making that much money per fight. That's a lot of those young prospects coming up, trying to get the experience, working on their craft. They got to fight. They ain't making number 50, 60,000 a fight. Yeah, they got to fight 3 or 4 times a year. But I'm making $3 million a year. Why in the hell would I fight 3 or 4 times a year for what? And that's what Eddie Hearn failed to realize. Those guys are very loyal to Al Heyman. Yeah, no. He talks about Deontay Wilder don't have no skill set, and all he got is a right hand. And, you know, I always got something to say about PBC fighters. Talking about Gary Russell ain't fought since forever, and when is he gonna fight again? It's a shame that he's sitting on the shelf that long. You know, basically worried about other people's fighters. If Gary Russell ain't complaining, then why you talking about it, Eddie? Don't seem like Gary Russell ain't got no problem with it, because Gary Russell, when he do fight, he making money. He can fight once a year and be set. He ain't got to be fighting 2 or 3 times a year. He obviously making enough money in that one fight where he ain't hurting for no money. Now, when you heard Gary Russell do these interviews, he obviously want to be more active. Now, he ain't saying, I'll fight once a year, I'm good. He ain't saying that. He wants to get these fights done, but the man ain't hurting from no money. He got brothers fighting, and he's not hurting for any kind of money. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. I keep getting these phone calls, man. People calling me while I'm trying to do this video. It is what it is. We'll see what happens, and we will see what transpires. Let me know your thoughts about Conor Benn's promoter, Eddie Hearn, saying that he's offered Adrien the Problem Broner 2 contracts that he has turned down to fight Conor Benn. Let me know your thoughts about that. Do you think Conor Benn should look into another direction? As it's obvious that Adrien Broner does not want that fight. If he wants that fight for a certain price, like I said earlier, he asked for $10 million to fight Devin the Dream Haney. He's probably going to want the same amount of money to fight Conor Benn. And I think that's a little bit too rich for Eddie Hearn's blood. So I don't see that fight happening at all. So Conor Benn needs to look at other fighters. They got other fighters that fight under the PBC stable that you might be able to afford. You got Robert the Ghost Guerrero. You got to throw some money at him. You got to throw money at these fighters that come across that palm, because they know if the fight's close, they're not going to get the decision. They're going to be at risk of getting robbed, number one. So you got to pay these guys to come over there, like Robert Ghost Guerrero, even Vicious Victor Ortiz. You got to pay those guys to come over there. You know, you might not have to pay them $10 million like Adrien Broner wants, but you got to pay them probably half of that to come over there and fight across the pond over there in the UK. You got to understand, if not, then he's going to just have to fight the best available opponent and just stay active and stay sharp until that big name comes into fruition. Kind of like what Jerome Boots Ennis had to do, and what Virgil Ortiz Jr. had to do, as their last, especially Ortiz's last 2 fights has been against big names in the sport of boxing. That being Maurice Hooker and then Igor Kavaliauskas. Jerome Boots Ennis just got through defeating Lipinets, and now he's finna take on Thomas Delorme. I think Conor Benn's gonna probably have to follow that same blueprint. Just keep working, keep fighting, and then you'll eventually, some of the bigger names in the welterweight division will come your way. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. Subscribe to JB Sports, the man, the myth, the legend, and I holla.